Zhang Wei asked me what I was doing. I said I had a fight with my wife and was homeless, wandering the streets. He immediately slapped his thighs, and immediately said that it was just right. He was looking for things to help me, let me go to his home to stay. I asked him what favor he wanted to help. He said his company has a temporary project, very urgent, need him to travel immediately for 2 days. And during these days, only his wife was home alone. On the other hand, his wife sprained her foot while practicing yoga a few days ago, and it was not very easy for her to move around. Her parents were in the countryside, and it was a long way to travel, so it was inconvenient for her to be without someone to take care of her, and he didn't feel at ease. He thought about it and didn't have any other friends, so he thought of me as his brother and asked me to take care of his wife. I was a bit embarrassed and asked, "How can that be? That's your wife, you're asking your friend, a male friend at that, to take care of your wife, isn't that a bit inappropriate?" But he rebuked me in return, saying that we've been brothers for so many years, and he still can't trust me. It's just cooking and serving tea, it's not like you need any other special care. He doesn't trust other people, but how can he not trust a brother like me? When I heard that he was so honest, I couldn't refuse, so I agreed. Zhang Wei told me, the key is placed in the door under the footrest, let me open the door to go in. His wife will generally lie down in the bedroom to rest, will not come out to walk around, and was originally a leg inconvenience. So, let me open the door and go in by myself. So let me open the door and go in by myself. So, I went to his home. His house is in a fairly upscale neighborhood, the environment is not bad, I've been here a few times. When I got to his house, I found the key under the footrest, and then I opened the door and went in. But as soon as I entered, there was a sound. The bedroom door was ajar, and the lights were off, so it was a little fuzzy and suspicious. I thought to myself, catch a thief in the act. It is necessary to catch the current situation, so that she has no way to argue, in order to let my friend truly realize the shamelessness of his wife. For the sake of my brother, for the sake of justice in my heart, I took out my cell phone, and while recording, I approached. With that, I reached out and lifted the quilt. I froze, and it turned out to be my sister-in-law. I immediately turned around, ready to leave. How could I have imagined that before I could take a step out, a pair of jade arms embraced me? "Hubby." In order to avoid embarrassment, I didn't make a sound, put away my cell phone, and went to untie her hands. I thought I'd say hello to her when I ran out and she was awake, otherwise how would we get along for the next few days? Running away while she was confused was the only way to avoid embarrassment. However, when I leaned over to untie her hand, she actually climbed up with it and actually climbed onto my shoulder. "Honey, why are you ignoring me?" She pouted, her tone soft and sticky, so nice to hear. I wanted to run away while she recognized the wrong person, but the next second, she had already kissed me. I can no longer hold back, and immediately turned against me. She leaned against my chest and couldn't help but sigh, "Hubby, today you seem different from before." I instantly came to my senses. Dare I say that she is still in a daze and mistook me for her husband? I hurriedly drew myself up, grabbed my clothes and ran out. I could only hear her calling out husband behind me, but I didn't dare to make a sound. I don't dare to make a sound. I hurriedly put on my clothes, took a deep breath, and slowly calmed myself down. The time, a kind of self-reproach idea floated up. A friend's wife is not to be bullied, let alone a brother who is so good. What have I done? Zhang Wei and I are old classmates, from high school to college together. But after graduation, he mixed a little better than me. He works for a big company with a decent salary and married a beautiful wife. He's kind of a winner in life. And I came out to look for a job is not too smooth, so, life is a little bitter. But then it is also barely stable point, but also able to maintain the family. Although it is not rich, but also barely able to get by. And then later, I also married a wife, also quite beautiful. However, my wife has some small temperament, we two after marriage often quarrel. Such a good brother, I even slept with his wife. I couldn't help but give myself 2 punches, cursing myself for being worse than a beast. What if this is discovered? I think I'd better flee the scene first. Thinking of this, I immediately ran away. But just downstairs not long, received a call from Zhang Wei again. Zhang Wei asked me how I have not yet arrived. Her wife called to say hungry, but no one to do food. I do not know how to explain, can only say that it is almost there. So then, I just had to turn around and go upstairs. But when I opened the door, I saw that my sister-in-law was already dressed and sitting in the living room. I froze at once, somewhat at a loss for words. On the contrary, my sister-in-law smiled. Finally, I'm here. Zhang Weizek left without saying anything. I'm hungry and I don't have anything to eat, so it's a trouble for you to make a trip. I was puzzled. Did she really not recognize me, or was she pretending? I could only laugh hard and say, yeah, a bit of a traffic jam. I heard Zhang Wei say that you're a good cook, so I'm in for a treat today. Nodded. It's good that sister-in-law doesn't mind, I'm going to cook. After saying that, I hurriedly dug into the kitchen. I was opening the meal, when suddenly, Lu Yun leaned against the door and laughed. You came to my place, does sister-in-law know about it? I turned back with an open-mouthed look and said awkwardly, I haven't told her yet, we're in the middle of a fight. Lu Yun was wearing pajamas at the moment, lethargically leaning against the door. The pajamas were silky and thin, revealing her good figure to all. You newly married young couple, it's the time when you are like glue, how could you quarrel and leave home? I sighed and said, her nature isn't as gentle as her sister-in-law's. Although she's not from a noble family, she was also pampered since she was a child, so she's a heavy child and loves to lose her temper. If she can't stand it, she comes out for air. As expected, you are still a child, do you want my sister-in-law to help you? I waved my hand, forget it, leave for 2 days, also count to give yourself some peace and quiet. For the rest of the day, she just kept chatting with me while I cooked. We had a chat and gossiped about trivial matters of life. From the awkwardness at the beginning to the slow familiarization, there was less and less awkwardness between the two of us. I was also sure that she really didn't seem to realize that the person she had just rolled in bed with was me. So, I'll just pretend this never happened and try not to show it in front of her. At the dinner table, she ate my cooking with a burst of praise. She said she hadn't eaten such delicious food for a long time. Zhang Wei's food at home is not bad, but it's still far from delicious, it's just some homemade dishes, it's not comparable to what I do. She also exaggerated, said I do, is the hotel chef level. Being praised is naturally something to be happy about. I was in a good mood. As she ate, she suddenly put down her chopsticks and shook her head with a face of enjoyment. It's really too delicious, especially this beef you fried, it's really good to my heart. No, I must have some wine today. There is red wine on the cabinet over there, help me get a bottle and we'll have a small drink. I thought, drinking some red wine is not harmful, that thing is not intoxicating, so I nodded, got up and went to the cabinet to take a bottle of red wine down. Poured 2 glasses of red wine and slowly drank it. She was drinking while eating the food, and couldn't help but dance around as she ate, just like a child. At this moment I actually looked a little dumbfounded, did not expect her mature appearance also has a child's heart. Looking at her hands and feet, my heart seemed to be tickled by her. She suddenly looked at me and asked, why are you blushing? You've only had a few sips of wine and you're drunk? Isn't this red wine? I laughed, I don't usually drink much, so maybe it's a little on my face. After drinking wine, her words even more open box, the south of the world and I talked a lot. This words is the best food. The two of us chatting while drinking, in the end, actually opened several bottles of red wine, and finally still feel unfulfilled. Although the degree is low, but also some drunkenness, smiling a little unnatural. I knew that she was also really drunk, so I got up and went to her, took a paper and wiped her mouth and said, Sister-in-law, I'll send you back to your room to rest. Her eyes were a little hazy, and she subconsciously nodded her head. I reached out to help her stand up. But her feet were injured and she couldn't use her strength. If she was sober, she would still be able to hold on to things and move slowly. But now that she drank, she directly couldn't even stand up. She just stood up and fell down because she was unsteady. Fortunately, I held her at once, so she did not fall to the ground. However, she immediately fell into my arms. Sister-in-law, you're drunk. She laughed, it's a bit drunk. I helped her up again and continued to help her towards the bedroom again. But after just a step or two, she once again became unsteady in her center of gravity and collapsed again. And naturally I held her up once again. I was filled with capitalized embarrassment and my face turned even redder. Going on like this wasn't an option. I whispered, "Let me carry you to bed." Saying that, leaning down and directly picking up her entire body in a princess carry, she quickly made her way to the room. I gently placed her on the bed. But right at this moment, she suddenly reached out her hand and climbed onto my neck. I was at a loss for words, but she was even more energized. A hand held me down on the bed backward, questioning, "Bastard, you honestly tell me, just now was it you?" And I rolled in bed. I hurriedly shook my head. "What is sister-in-law talking about? Weren't you sitting in the living room when I came? When did I do that kind of thing with you?" She, however, shook her head and said, "Cut the crap." At this moment I was at a loss for words. Originally I thought she was going to angrily blame me when she took the initiative. Perhaps it was still the effect of the alcohol, being stimulated by her like this. Where could I still hold it? Since she was so active, it wasn't too much for me to cooperate. She leaned against my shoulder, a fist pounded in my chest, said, "Now you still from where to sophistry? How do I say there is a kind of déjà vu feeling, so that thief is you?" Quietly, I then asked, "Why do you still secretly do that kind of thing when you're home alone?" She instantly blanked me before telling me the reason. It turned out to be that she and Zhang Wei have not had a conjugal life for many days, so in order to stimulate Zhang Wei she secretly bought aphrodisiacs and prepared to give them to Zhang Wei, but I did not expect that, by mistake, it was taken by himself. But no matter who takes, it does not matter, two people will. However, no one expected Zhang Wei temporary business trip, go so quickly, simply did not give her the opportunity to release, so she can only get high. But no one expected, this time I broke in. She thought that her husband had gone and returned, and that's why she did such a shameful thing with me. I wrapped my arms around her, but still had a strong sense of guilt in my heart. My good brother kindly took me in and asked me to take care of his wife. I didn't expect that I would end up supervising my own theft. If this was known by Zhang Wei, I was afraid that he would kill me. I voiced out my worries and self-blame. It was my sister-in-law who relieved me. She said that although this was wrong, both times were accidents, one was medicine and the other was alcohol, it was not considered a sincere betrayal. I nodded, "Then we can't have a next time, otherwise it would be a real betrayal." After saying that, both of us fell into silence. However, after only 10 seconds or so had passed, she suddenly raised her head and said with her large Cazalan eyes imploringly, "Since it's been 2 times, it's betrayal without betrayal. Then 3 times and 2 times doesn't seem to make a difference." I was teased by her so much that my mind was also swirling. It seems to be the truth. Then let's be a temporary couple for a few days before Zhang Wei returns. When Zhang Wei comes back, we can be friends again. Lu Yin nodded her head, and her hand started to be unruly again. I hurriedly pulled her hand and said, "The field plow isn't bad, but the oxen will die of exhaustion. Rest and rest." She smiled and hugged me. The two of us fell into a deep sleep. We didn't get up until noon the next day. After making the meal, we were eating when Zhang Wei called the video. Seeing us eating, he kept thanking me. Seeing that I cooked a sumptuous meal, he also kept praising me, saying that he liked my cooking as well. The conversation was very happy. Zhang Wei was also very relieved and teased that his wife had gained weight after not seeing her for 2 days. After chatting for a while, he got busy. In this way, I stayed in Zhang Wei's home for 3 days. 3 days inside, my wife as a phone call did not give me, visible gas is still quite big. However, in the end, it is a couple, there must be a person to compromise first. So, I am going to go back tomorrow to see. On the 3rd day, Lu Yin and I just ate dinner. It was too late to collect the bowl. I got up and came to her side. As soon as I picked her up, I brought her straight back to the bedroom. Suddenly, Zhang Wei's voice rang out from outside. "Wife, I'm back." This shout simply scared the dog's guts out of me. I scrambled up and couldn't get dressed in time, so I hurriedly ran into the closet on one side. Lu Yin is also quickly getting dressed. "Wife, Yangzi." Zhang Wei called the two of us from outside. I naturally didn't dare to agree and hurriedly dressed. But just at this time, Jiang Wei pushed the door in. "Husband," Lu Yun called out somewhat nervously. Jiang Wei laughed. "In broad daylight, why is the door closed and the curtains drawn?" "I'm sleeping." "Why aren't you wearing any clothes when you're sleeping?" "I'm changing my underwear." Jiang Wei nodded and asked where I had gone. Lu Yun explained that I went grocery shopping. Jiang Wei nodded and didn't think deeply. "Otherwise, there are still dishes and chopsticks on the table outside here, just eating and buying groceries. Isn't this a contradiction?" However, Jiang Wei didn't think much about it, but looked at Lu Yun and said, "It's been a long time since I've seen my wife's body. While Yongzi is away, let's have a go." Saying that, he went to bed to embrace Lu Yun. Lu Yun hurriedly pushed him away. "This foot of mine isn't finished exercising now, I'm afraid of hurting it." Jiang Wei shook his head. "I'll be gentle." Lu Yun nodded, but pulled over the quilt and covered Jiang Wei's entire head at once. "Wife, what are you doing covering my head?" "Don't talk, aren't you in a hurry?" Lu Yun pressed Jiang Wei's head. I saw Lu Yun giving me a wink from the closet crack. I gently pushed open the closet door and crept out. I was relieved when I reached the living room. Quickly putting on my clothes, I took out some dishes from the kitchen and loaded them up, pretending to come to the door and banging on the room door. "Sister-in-law, I'm home," I shouted from the doorway. Jiang Wei instantly poked his head out from inside the quilt. "This asshole, what a bad time to come back." Lu Yun took the opportunity to push him away. "Hurry up, don't let Yongzi see the joke." Without the need for Lu Yun to say anything, Jiang Wei had already gotten up and quickly put on his clothes. Seeing Jiang Wei come out from the bedroom, I pretended to be surprised. Instead, he smiled and patted me on the shoulder, thanking me for my help, and took the initiative to start clearing the table. Since he was back, of course I couldn't continue to stay here. I said I wanted to go back. He didn't stop me, and told me to go back and have a good chat with my wife. Don't ruin the couple's relationship. In the end, we still have to live a lifetime. I nodded and prepared to pack up. But suddenly, I saw his wrist wearing a hair tie rope loop. This look does not matter, but this is clearly my wife's things. I made this with my own hands. The 2 beads on it are still I chose, but also engraved with the initials of our surnames. This is something unique, definitely not something that can be bought outside. This discovery immediately surprised me. Why would my wife's things be worn on his hand? My wife and I got flash married after being introduced in our hometown, and at that time, Jiang Wei was not available, so he didn't come. It's been so long, our 2 families haven't gotten together, so he's never even met my wife, so he shouldn't know her. So how did this thing get into his hands? At this instant, I went from a lucky escape just now to a desire to know now. I immediately asked Jiang Wei where the hairband in his hand came from. It looked quite chic. Jiang Wei visibly froze for a moment. And at this time, Lu Yun also happened to move to the side of the kitchen. She also looked strangely at the hairband on Jiang Wei's hand. After Jiang Wei froze for a moment, he immediately laughed. Jiang Wei froze for a moment, he immediately laughed. "This is something I saw for sale at a street stall by the side of the road, and I thought it was quite chic, so I bought it and prepared to tie my wife's hair." With that, he took it off and handed it to Lu Yun. Lu Yun took it in her hand and looked at it, but frowned. "This hairband seems to be used. It doesn't look like a new one." Jiang Wei smiled. "It's been 2 days since I wore it on my hand. I moved it around and it's worn out." "What's the big deal? It's normal, it just looks like it's old." Lu Yun didn't care. While I was smiling, "This hairband looks quite chic, let me take a look. If I can, I'll go buy one for my wife too." Lu Yun didn't care, so she handed the hairband to me. I took it in my hands and saw that it was clearly made by me. At this moment, I was completely certain that Jiang Wei was bound to have some connection with my wife. But it was reasonable that the 2 of them did not know each other at all, so why would such a thing happen? If I were to believe that Jiang Wei really bought or picked it up on the side of the road, I would never believe that it was a coincidence either. I returned the hair circle to Lu Yun, but Lu Yun gave it back to me again. "Since you like this thing, then you can take it to your wife to wear. It's also a small gift to coax your wife." "This isn't good, this is what Jiang Wei bought for you specially." Lu Yun shook his head, without any substantial expression. "What's so great about a few dollars?" After saying that, he stuffed it back to me. Jiang Wei naturally did not say anything more. After I put it away, I greeted and said I was leaving. Zhang Wei sent me off. When we parted, I clearly saw the reluctance in Lu Yun's eyes. Yes, these 2 or 3 days together, how pleasant, how dashing, is that I myself are a little reluctant to part. Back home, my wife is nestled in the sofa playing games. See me back, she also just glanced, words did not say a word, seems to be still angry with me. At this moment, I want to know more about the doubts in my heart. I came directly to her, asked, I gave you a hairband, where to go? My wife actually also froze for a moment, but then it was angrily said, who let you talk to me? I haven't forgiven you yet. Let me tell you, I don't want to say a word to you until I forgive you. Don't you want to run away from home? Get out, as far away as you can, and I hope you never come back. The woman just wouldn't answer with a straight face, she just avoided the question. I'm asking you, where did your hairband go? Seeing me ask the same question so seriously, she became even more a little angry. I don't love you anymore, so I threw away the things you gave me a long time ago, who knows where they fell, go find them on the road yourself. Seeing her so angry, I was indifferent, turned around and went back to the bedroom. She was huffing and puffing on the sofa, taking the doll to spread her anger, but did not come to pester me. In the evening, when my wife went to take a shower, I took the cell phone she had placed on the coffee table. As a man, an ordinary man, basically will not have to go through the woman's cell phone, but I want to confirm what I think. Click on the WeChat to see the first top of the message. The name of the note is written Zhang Supervisor, but the back is added a love. And looking at that avatar, where am I not clear? This is clearly Zhang Wei's avatar. Click on the chat record, so I did not expect is that there are a series of fleshy love words. Zhang Wei is my wife's company's supervisor, and my wife is working under his hands. 2 people from the beginning of the work relationship, until the back slowly appeared ambiguous flavor. And after the warm flavor, there were some revealing situations. In 3 months ago, the 2 even began to propose a date, then there will be what business trips, resorts, hotels, Mandarin duck's bath, etc. See my anger. And through the chat, both actually did not mention each other's family. I absolutely do not believe that 2 people work in a company, usually chat will not involve family. So, they obviously also know each other is married, but still will be private meeting together. Until now I realized that I was Zhang Wei Green, and, still in a few months before the beginning. The guilt that I originally still had in my heart towards Zhang Wei was already gone. What are you doing? Just then, my wife walked out from the bathroom. She angrily ran over and snatched the cell phone. I, however, looked at her expressionlessly. Good, really good, I didn't expect you to hook up with another man behind my back. Who gave you permission to go through my cell phone? Still avoiding the issue and changing the subject. I growled angrily and warned her not to look around. Even more so, I made it clear that I was not done with her until this matter was cleared up today. She then began a sophomoric defense, saying that they are just mouth-high just, did not pay actual at all, they are co-workers relationship, joking with each other. Although chatting a little too much, but in the end did not go beyond the last step. At this time I no longer let her, immediately stood up, directly will her cell phone again snatched over. She wanted to snatch it over, but couldn't compete with me. I clicked on WeChat and made a voice call to Zhang Wei. She wanted to come over and grab the phone. But I ignored her. Soon, Zhang Wei picked up. The voice was whispered and suppressed. But it sounded even angrier to me. Zhang Wei said on the other end of the phone, just separated and you miss me again. Aren't you afraid that your husband will know if you call me behind my back like this? My face turned green. Zhang Wei was still saying to himself, baby, I miss you so much, I really want to go to the company soon and see you again. Hearing this, my wife had stopped struggling. Zhang Wei was still talking nonstop on that end. Finally, after a few sentences, he also seemed to realize that something was wrong, so he asked, baby, why aren't you talking? I called out in a deep voice, Zhang Wei, hello, you're really good. I clearly felt that on the other end, Zhang Wei froze for a few seconds. He then called out in great surprise, Yongzi. Laughed angrily, isn't it exactly me? Zhang Wei immediately panicked and hurriedly tried to explain to me, but I directly hung up the phone. Jiang Wei started calling me, but I didn't answer. My wife is like a child who has made a mistake, following me, waiting for me to be sentenced. I started a series of questioning. My wife did not much. She changed her attitude from the old days. Jiang Wei came, rushed to the night. The first thing to do when you enter the door, is to pull me to apologize constantly. He said he simply did not know that this is my wife. If he knew, killed also absolutely will not start. From the two men's chat records, it is true that never involved my name and Lu Yun's name, visible they seem to really do not know each other. I just didn't expect to hook up, but it was the other half of the friend. Jiang Wei's apology was very sincere, so sincere that I was embarrassed to blame him, and it even made me feel like it was my fault for not forgiving him. But then again, he and my wife hooked up without knowing it. But his wife and I were doing that kind of thing with the knowledge of the relationship. In comparison, I'm the bigger asshole. But naturally, after what happened, it couldn't have ended well. Jiang Wei left, and I got divorced. I didn't choose to be original and cool, nor did I say I didn't forgive. Only, I and Jiang Wei also cut off communication. Until one day, I received a call from Lu Yun. She said she was pregnant. Hearing this news really startled me. She and Jiang Wei so many years are not pregnant, and I got a few days will be pregnant, which is still 10-80% is mine. Good thing Jiang Wei didn't suspect anything. All is happy. However, for insurance purposes, I secretly did a paternity test after the birth of the child, and finally determined that it was really mine. Hard to Jiang Wei's hatred completely no complaints, but feel sorry for him. I began to find Jiang Wei to get back together. I want to go back to the original relationship with him. I want to continue to be friends with him. Jiang Wei naturally willing, because in his heart, still feels sorry for me. So I did the child's godfather. So, we exchanged some more, as if we never had a grudge.